can be described as grudge matches. You know, things have been going for a long time. And of course, as we get rolling here into Ruins of Sarnath, I don't know if there was any trash talk between Cooler and Toxic like we've seen in years previous. I know both of these guys are going to be taking it incredibly serious. As we saw Cooler in the group stages, he went 12-0. He has not lost a round. So Toxic, I'm hoping that, you know, the usual thing happens and the clouds part, a ray of sunshine shines down, and he turns into this Quake God. But right now, I love this. We've got Scale Bear, we've got Sorlight going against each other, crossing over in T-side. We've actually got a ton of spit coming out right away. The LG was certainly a good start and a good finish against Toxic Scale Bear. Bye-bye.
That Sorlag immediately showing up again from Cooler here. We saw how dominant it was and just how much control he was able to exercise over Rafa yesterday in that matchup. And once again, he's done it here. That spit showing up so effectively. And he's already knocked out Toxic's first champion within the first, what, like 30, 40 seconds of the round.
And of course, Toxic going over to Nyx, he's going to have to be very careful and take a lot of damage off. I mean, I'm already getting kind of flashbacks of seeing Cooler play against Rafa yesterday. Toxic definitely has his work cut out for him, but again, Cooler's just kind of keeping top of the map, keeping good sight lines on most of the areas, opening up those opportunities for a rail. And of course, against the Nyx, one rail goes a very, very long way.
Well, he's going to get stuck in a corner a little bit here, though, but with both power-ups under control, that damage is going to be relatively negated. He's going to go for a couple timer bubbles here, too, to try and get his spit back up. He did whiff it a few seconds ago if you missed that one, but now it's going to be able to get a pretty decent amount of damage on a Toxic. About a third of his HP. Can be pretty easily recovered, though, on the Nyx, as the Nyx doesn't have much to begin with.
Right now, Toxic needs to get a read on Cooler's positioning. He cannot afford to cross some of these areas because, you know, you turn around a corner and there's a dinosaur in your face and things go poorly for you very, very quickly. Cooler dropping down for armor, coming back up towards Nailgun, and actually going very low, making sure that he's not going to be exposing himself in the air for an easy rail. But there's the rail from Toxic anyway, but it's going to have to be the first of many. We're going to have to see if Toxic can pull it away.
That's a second free rail in a row now, actually, that Toxic's been able to pop off against Cooler there. So he's getting some good damage, and he's knocked it off. And there's another one, too. So far, damage not being returned. Trying to push on him with the LG. Finally, a rail shot from Toxic is going to miss. With the LG damage done earlier there by Cooler, it's enough to force Toxic out of the fight and reset him again. And
so far, from all these matches we've seen from Cooler, he's been very slow. He's been very methodical, making sure he's not getting himself into a situation that he knows he cannot win. But of course, as we've seen, once he has any inkling that, all right, I can push this, I can make it, the aggression really does come out. But he's waiting right now, looking for a teleporter exit. We actually see Toxic over by the armor. This could be a bad place to be, but Cooler didn't know he was there. Toxic actually getting around him, and again, getting a free rail. It's going to have to be a lot of them, though, because as more time goes on, Cooler's still getting these grabs for the Mega, and that's taking Toxic back to square one a lot. But as you can see, these rails are so consistent out of Toxic, 3, 4, 5 in a row, and he's actually got the Ghost Walk. Here comes the LG. The spit goes wide. We've got LG coming back out of Cooler. It's shaft on shaft, but Toxic ends up taking down Sorlag, making her extinct.
Perfectly done by Toxic there. He was sneaking off so many free rail shots throughout the course of that last life and was finally able to knock out the Sorlag, knocking out one of Cooler's, I mean, probably his best champion right there. So now bringing him down to the Nyx. It's going to go into the mirror matchup for this next fight.
One moment to cheer will be if Toxic can even take a single round off of Cooler. He'll be the first in this tournament to do so if he can. But of course, we've got a long way to go before that's even possible. It's Nyx on Nyx here, as Toxic's taking away some armor, coming back into Mega. It's still 15 seconds away, but he's looking for Cooler to cross over. I'm not expecting him to see it. I'm not sure if Toxic's expecting it either.
This matchup already looks way different than the game we saw from Cooler yesterday, where it seemed like Cooler very much had control over the map for most of, you know, all three of the maps that were played out yesterday versus Rafa. This is a lot different. Toxic is immediately getting himself into the fight after even losing that first battle, and now the fight will begin. Toxic forced to pop the stealth. He's going to stay close, though. Break damage being done by the rocket, but he chooses not to continue the fight. He'll dive back over to the side to try and get a couple cooldown pickups.
Really tense moment. One rocket for either of them would have done it, but as Toxic comes back through TP to Mega, he's still looking for maybe an early rail, but they've kind of lost track of each other, which is tense for both of them, honestly. But any rockets that Toxic throws out for spam might be information that Cooler can use against him. So we've got Toxic kind of stay back in this corner, making sure he's armored up, ready for the fight on the Mega. It's going to be a ton of LG damage going his way. There's the grab from Cooler, and it's just enough to push him over to the frag.
Yeah, thankfully he timed it well with the push there. Was able to get the Mega health pickup just as the fight was going on. Allowed him to keep his health rolling, and now Toxic down to his last champion here, but remember, he only has 30 seconds to be able to get this trade kill against Cooler. Otherwise, Cooler is going to win it out via the timer, so he needs to move quickly, and Cooler's smart. He knows he really can't take that duel. He's going to be able to pick off a little bit of damage with the rail, but other than that, he's going to be hiding, trying to delay this as long as possible. There's the shot as well, the quick pop into stealth to avoid taking the dot damage from the Sorlag, and now up on top, gets the pickup, but actually, he's going to get hit by that, but again, escapes the fight, goes away, and there's only 5 seconds left in the round, so Cooler is just going to bail out of here, wait out those last couple of seconds, and with that, he'll win round number 1. one.
That rail would have done it if it had connected. I mean, you have to push at those moments. And what's amazing to me is that Cooler didn't see Toxic down in the stairs below him. There was a huge opportunity for Tox to rocket jump up and get the grab, but one more round goes over to Cooler here. The first here on Ruins of Sarnath as we go into the next one.
Yeah, so great job by Cooler there. Takes the initial control. He did kind of lose it as we got towards the middle of the round there, but then at the very end of it, a very well-timed push into the middle of the room to take the next Phoenix battle. Was able to get that Mega Health that boosted it back up, and in the straightforward LG versus LG fight was able to win it just because he had the extra health to play off of it. Another quick fight that starts here, and it's very much Cooler controlling the situation at the beginning again, as you can see from the health pools there.
And Toxic is indeed railable here. He's going to have to throw off a lot of spam to make this cross down into the armor safe, but is it indeed going to be safe? He's looking for the rail on the staircase. He ends up hitting it, bringing Toxic down to under 25 health, giving Cooler the armor and possibly giving him control of the Mega as well. Yeah, Toxic really cannot afford to even show up, maybe not even for a peak rail.
Cooler's still going to be around here trying to get his kit stacked up too. He hasn't been able to get rockets just yet, but that's going to change now as he does have himself fully stacked up. He's got both power-ups to work with here too, so now it's just hunting down Toxic, trying to figure out where exactly he went. Should have been able to hear him moving around on the top side here, but obviously Toxic's going to be moving pretty quickly around the map. They're even on that scale there. Finds him. It's another rail shot, and once again, he's got him at sub 25 HP.
Yeah, soaking up all those 25s is a little bit harder here in Sarnath than it is in, say, a Blood Covenant, so Toxic is going to have to spend some time putting himself in kind of awkward, out-of-the-way areas in order to get any kind of health. In the meantime, Cooler can just kind of take laps, enjoy the fact that he's got a bit of an advantage and the stack, but at some point he knows he needs the kill, but the LG coming out of Toxic is absolutely brutal. He's still stuck in a corner, but he's still going to be incredibly dangerous as Cooler's lost all of his stack advantage. They're pretty much even at this point, but we're going to have to see if the rails or rockets make a difference.
A little bit of a nasty switch there at the end. Tried to go for one more rail hit against Toxic. Won't happen. So Cooler, they'll back away from this fight. Messed up really badly at the start, taking all that damage, and the rocket jump, I think, not putting him in the position that he really wanted to go towards, but already takes back control of the full armor, and in a moment here is going to be able to go up and get the Mega Health. I believe that'll be uncontested as well. Delaying a little bit to try and split the timers up a bit more. He's basically got a perfect split between the timers now, and Toxic, unfortunately, has just not had any chances to go in and steal either of these away from Cooler.
Yeah, usually if you can do enough damage to your opponent where they have to go get Mega, they have to go get armor just to keep that control, that it gives you the opportunity to get the smaller armors, get the 25s, and of course Scalebearer can take a ton of those away and get kind of close to Sorlag, but of course he's got a lot of work to do here. So Cooler has lost track of Toxic. I mean, Toxic staying really sneaky, which is no small feat against Cooler here, but Cooler is really keeping control of the upper platform, giving him a lot of good sightlines, and moving through the teleporter could actually be kind of sneaky, could get behind Toxic this way as they're going to be coming into this armor room, but you can see that Cooler is looking for the damage, and they're still missing each other, which just means that this fight is going to be a surprise for both of them.
Cooler is trying to slowly jump downstairs again there as he does have the armor spawn coming back up in a moment. He'll be able to pick that up. Toxic, I believe, should have been able to hear that from up on top here, so he's going to be looking for a push from either side, really. Unfortunately, the pickup doesn't give him a whole lot of info about the route that his opponent would take, but now jumps back up, spots him moving back in. There's the rail connection from Toxic. Unfortunately, with Cooler still having the stack there, it's not going to do a huge amount of damage.
Yeah, allowing Cooler to get that Mega, I mean, it still kind of puts him in an even keel, but might see the Scalebearer charge come out here as that Sorlag is in the corner. He's looking for the rails to open things up here, and one rail could very much open the door for an opportunity on attack. It certainly got Cooler against the ropes. He's backing off to armor. If he gets caught here at the stairs, a rail goes a little bit wide from Toxic, allowing Cooler to get out of there and back into safety.
Toxic, once again, he looks like he actually wants to dive into this fight a little bit here at the very least, try to go for the steal on the Mega Health. That's what he's going to do, try to push back in, but the LG's not going to let that happen. Down to just about 100 HP here. Again, both players decide to back away from each other at the end of that fight.
And he's just using the bull rush in order to cross the map. He knows he might have an opportunity here against Cooler, but again, the rail goes a little bit wide. He'll have more opportunities down here in the basement. There's not too many ways out of there that are that safe, and spamming off the rocket launcher will allow him to get the grab for the armor, giving him a little bit more of an edge. But I think they really are focused on control at this point, but here's control of some damage. Really good rocket pop, keeping Toxic alive, looking for one more opportunity on the rail before the Mega's taken away. He can still take a rail and get out of here. I'm not sure if Cooler will be able to give him the chance if that lands.
Toxic again just falls back there. Knows he got that Mega Health, as you were saying. He gets the health back up to where it's going to take at least 2 rails to be able to take down Cooler in that situation, so he'll back away. And Cooler goes back into controlling both these stacks too, as the armor spawn coming back up. I believe he's sitting down there right now, so we should be able to time that. Just delaying it a little bit there. Now jumping back up, but oh, that could have been a mistake there. Again, needing to get quite a bit of LG damage, and that's going to push him back. It looks like Toxic wants to pursue it, though. We're coming up on the 5-minute mark, so this next kill probably will win the round.
It's very difficult to get out of that situation, and Cooler realized as soon as he started taking that LG that he didn't want to be anywhere near there. But now we've traded positions a little bit. Toxic is controlling the upper hallway. He can take away Mega, he can spam down rockets or go down for the heavy armor at will. And so now the stack has kind of, you know, gone over to him, and we've got only 10 seconds left before we go into overtime, and I think it might last a while.
At the very least, has evened out a little bit here now to where Cooler is no longer able to control both of those pickups. They're kind of trading 1-for-1 at this point, with Cooler taking the armor and Toxic able to control the health. And you can see he's going back in there now as he knows the spawn's coming up soon. He's trying to figure out where exactly Cooler's going to push him from. You missed him. Cooler was allowed to push in this room basically for free, so Cooler should be able to engage right now. Still hasn't been able to spot him. He's gotten all the way up to the side steps over here. Gets the health to play with. Cooler still choosing not to engage, just stays quiet the entire time.
Yeah, I mean, all you can really get out of that is maybe a rail or LG, but if you get stuck on those stairs, it can really go poorly for you. So they both got really good stacks. The item control is kind of trading, but right now they're kind of leaving items up a little bit longer, delaying the timing, just trying to get a trap, just trying to set up a situation where they can commit to a fight and commit to a trap.
Toxic once again sitting it back and just trying to wait this one out, hope that Cooler is the one to make a mistake here and pushes into him, but Toxic going to be pushing into the room, and that's where the LG's waiting for it. Remember, though, Toxic is that big stack, so there's a second or two of the LG spam. It's not really going to do a whole lot of damage at the end of the day. It's already been pretty much recovered from Toxic.
Toxic didn't hear, but he had beautiful prediction on both the rocket and the rail. That is a ton of damage that Cooler just took, but he is going to be out of there. And finding him down here in the LG room, he's got nowhere to go. He is absolutely cornered. Here comes the spit. It's going to be a lot of damage that Scumbag is taking, but Cooler is fragged, and that is the first round that Cooler has lost in this tournament.
And there we go, folks. Beautifully done. It took him a while for Toxic, but finally he was able to find that position where he could dive in on Cooler. Knew he had him locked down. He did that great damage. He did a little bit of damage earlier with the LG, but then finally pushing back in. He knew he had him in a corner there. There was nowhere for that sword-like to run, but ultimately could shut him down in the corner with just a bunch of spam there.
I mean, no matter what else happens here, Toxic has done something that nobody in Cooler's group was able to. But we're going to have to see if he can do more of those, maybe even take a map. It's still going to be a long time before we know who comes out on top of this one. And I think both of these guys have a ton of respect. We might see the aggression crank up a little bit here, especially Cooler taking those hits, knows that he cannot afford to let Toxic just wait and take control. But here comes LG on LG. Toxic with the high ground, really pushing the fight. And Cooler is indeed going to be trapped. And there's the frag. That is going to be a sword-like down, leaving Cooler with Nyx and Galena.
That's a big change up in momentum from what we saw in the last round there. Previously, Toxic had seemed scared to even take a smaller fight against one of Cooler's champions, but now he dives right in from the start and takes initial control. This great rail against Cooler 2 brings him low, and even with that armor pickup, it's not enough to keep his second champion alive. The Nyx goes down, and he's already down to just his Galena, which is also going to get chased. Beautifully spotted by Toxic, already getting some great damage on the Cooler, fresh off the respawn.
Even with that Mega going over to Cooler, I mean, he's going to have to spend a little bit more time getting weapons. Toxic can use his Bull Rush to try to cover as much of the map as possible, and any traps that he can make at this point are going to be bad news for Cooler. Cooler's objective is just going to be try to get some small items, maybe even go for heavy armor, but it might even be risky. Toxic is not really looking at it. He's maybe looking for the rail or the rocket on the staircase and just trying to get some audio information at this point.
It's a bit surprising Cooler being able to get that stack built up here, but once again, Toxic waiting over here on the top ridges. Great prediction. Nicely done listening to the sound there. He's able to spot out Cooler when he pushes out from down below. It's a great rocket connection and negates quite a bit of that stack.
Yeah, as long as Toxic is taking control of the Mega, I mean, Cooler can take armors all day, but in a 1v1 fight, I mean, you can see it. Toxic can just dish out so much more damage, and there it is, 2-1. I mean, Toxic is going to be very close to taking a map here.
The combo to close it out, so nicely done. The charge right into the room, the leap over top, the spin around to bounce him into the air, and then the follow-up with the railgun. It's like a dance, it's like a ballet from Toxic there as he closes out the second round, yeah.
All right, but here we go. We're getting right back into it, and both of them clashing right off the spawns. Not a lot of weapons. Neither of them really want that fight. We've got LG and Rail taken by Cooler. Toxic should have a rocket launcher here. No, he's still going with the jump pad for it. He's going to be trapped here a little bit. This is really bad news for Toxic, but there's a little bit of a spam rocket to give Cooler pause and force him to go get some items instead. So coming back up the jump pad, Cooler going for a small armor, and he still needs a rocket launcher himself. If Toxic can keep that off of him for a little bit, that could give him a bit of an advantage.
Toxic's still sitting pretty far outside, though, trying to hunt down Cooler, thinking that he would go over here towards the side room. Not happening, but Cooler, oh, it looked like for a second he wanted to try and take that duel. He did manage to pick up the armor. Thankfully for himself, Toxic ended up missing that rail shot there, so now he's going to move in, and he steals both of these, but runs right into a rocket from his opponent. He's going to lose quite a bit of the armor as a result of that. Still has a really decent stack going, though, so there's nothing stopping him from re-engaging against Toxic right now.
Those fights up top can always turn into really, really messy affairs, but lucky for Toxic, he got a bit of free damage, didn't take anything in return. He stayed kind of hidden behind the wall, but once again, they're going to be clashing up here. A lot of LG coming out of Cooler, just sevens everywhere, but there's the rail around the corner, but Toxic is up against the ropes. He's got very little health, even going through the teleporter. Cooler has an angle to punish him as he comes out to the armor. He's looking for the shot. There it is, and Scale Bear is going to be taken on down.
Great control again there from Cooler, being able to lock it down against Toxic. Brought him low, chose the perfect time to engage, but now the Knicks, fresh off the respawn, though, is going to get very aggressive. Tries to move in, gets that health. Now picking up the rail, tries to go for the close shot, not happening. The Knicks does get pushed back with the spit. The dot from the spit, too much damage. And again, Toxic loses his second champion right at the start here. It's the reversal of the last round, as it's Cooler controlling the situation now.
And this is going to change the tone entirely. Toxic really has to pull out the big guns here in order to do damage and not let too much time go by. He's got to take 2 frags out to even push it into overtime. And Cooler, knowing that, he might start to turtle up here a little bit. He's got Mega, he's got a bit of armor, and he's actually got Toxic at the jump pad once again, and that's one place where you can kind of line up a lot of those duck hunt rails. But now he's just going to be leaving the fight up. He knows he's done damage. He can go take armor for free and come back into it stronger than ever.
Cooler again wrapping it around here, looking for the shot he can find on Toxic. He did see him going inside of the tri-bolt room, and now he's going to try to chase on him. The spit going onto his opponent. Remember, you can only hit the direct connections. Can't actually do the damage with the dot, so it's Toxic. Trades out a kill finally against Cooler, putting him onto his Knicks.
It's traded, but that was so much damage that Toxic took there, making this fight, oh, so, I don't want to say easy for Cooler, but that nail gun absolutely shredding him to bits.
Yeah, brought down way too low from that fight, and he just wasn't able to get health pickups quickly enough, so it does end up going over to Cooler there. And now we'll go to the dead heat, tied 2-2, so into the final round to decide who is going to take this first map.
Definitely want to say Toxic definitely looks much more awake today. As opposed to a long day after playing Sacrifice, I think Toxic is definitely in this to win it. We're going to have to see here as we go into the last one. But there's a little bit of LG kind of setting the tone here against Cooler as he's able to take away both Mega and Rocket. But that LG and rail control, I mean, Toxic is going to have a little bit of the range advantage here. Cooler's knowing that. He's taking a little bit of a longer route. But Toxic knows exactly what Cooler wants. So he's not going to be making it easy for it, making sure he's going to be paying that toll by way of a rail.
Toxic might want to try and chase this down. He's looking for him, and I think Cooler knows it, though, so he's going to try to pick this out, but he's still sticking out. Didn't realize it there and got spammed by the LG, so Toxic just dominates him as I'm pushed into a corner, and it's a flawless first kill from Toxic.
Pro tip, Cooler. You can't hide there as a Swarlag, but oh, there's the next. She has to go Ghost Walk immediately. There's the Mega taken away by Toxic, but Cooler's finally going to be able to get out of there, but being one champ down, again, it sets a precedent, it sets a tone, but there's the play of the jump pad. Nyx can use the double jump to keep it safe, and there's the Rockets coming out, but Toxic is so strong as a Scale Bear, the LG very well could do it. The switch over to rail, he doesn't have any other weapons. He could have switched to machine gun even, and that would have done it, but Cooler gets out of there with, barely his health intact.
Just instinct right there, unfortunately. Tried to go over to the rail to be able to try and close out there, but missed the very close-up shot. So for now, at least, Cooler will survive. But even at this point, hasn't been able to recover a whole lot. He's only just at this point getting himself back up to full 75 HP and pushing in. The rocket work from Cooler has actually been pretty good, so Toxic's going to try to take this fight a little bit closer, and there you go! The jump over the top and the fadeaway rail to get the second kill.
Beautifully done. I love that Cooler even pushed forward, but even spawning here as Galena, yeah, you just don't want to spawn there. You don't want to be up against a Tox with the full armor, but that is a first here today in this tournament. There's going to be a lot of times where you just have to acknowledge that I'm going to get Mega and you're going to get armor, and we'll meet somewhere in the middle. We'll take a range check on the fight. But if you have a faster champion, you can know when the timings are. You can know when you have that opportunity to just grab one of the items and then just barrel it over to the other side and look for that rail either on the armor or look for the rocket play on the jump pad to Mega. And yeah, you can create those opportunities for sure.
Toxic looking focused right now, man. That's a scary look in his eyes. I
mean, he was looking scary yesterday, but I wasn't quite feeling it from him. But today, yeah, his vibe is kind of infectious.
I mean, Toxic, what a way to start it off if he would be able to push it all the way through and win this tournament, of course, pushing his way through from the start. I mean, beating Cooler right at the start from the round of 16 and then pushing all the way through the finals be a great way to start his legacy off again, because going back to Quake 4, of course, looking at what he's had there, has so many tournament victories. If you just go and look it up, there's too many to count. So it'd be a great way to start it again here in Quake Champions.
Even with only a 5-second respawn, you can see like right away that there's a lot of respect given to who's going to be able to get the grab for the rail, and who's going to have to avoid it, who's going to be able to trap it for a little bit. But you can see that immediately these guys are going silent.
Trying to hunt each other down, but right now neither one of them are going to be moving. So it'll be hard to lock that out.
I mean, once you know that initial items are taken, there's nowhere you really have to be. I mean, weapons are a big part of it, but as you can see, just blindly running around and trying to collect weapons is such an opportunity for a trap from either of these players. So they're both being really smart. Toxic going back in for yet another Mega. We have Armor coming up, and it'll be Cooler getting that grab. Really curious about what weapons he has. There's no rocket launcher for Toxic just yet. He hasn't crossed the gap over to the other side to get that grab, but they've peeked each other, they've seen each other. Toxic had maybe a split second to go for the rail, didn't quite have it out, and there's the opportunity. Actually, Cooler right off the bat must have gotten that rail, so even if it's the only thing he has, Toxic now knows that he has to respect this distance, he has to respect the positioning.
It's where that faster champion helps you out a little bit more too, is oftentimes that champion's gonna have a much smaller hitbox overall. So it's a little bit more difficult for those rails to connect comparatively to Toxic, who has that big dinosaur to try and hit there.
But, you know, it's balanced by the fact that you just have to hit her so much more. So it has this dynamic to the duel that I'm really loving, and I'm sure these guys are keeping it in mind here as we have Cooler kind of crossing from the rail area. We've got Toxic dropping down from pillars, looking for an initial rocket. Didn't quite have a rail out or an LG for any easy damage there, but popping back through the teleporter. He's keeping top of the pillars, doesn't want any positional advantage given away by Cooler as he comes through the teleporter himself. They're on opposite sides now. We have the armor coming up just a couple seconds before the Mega. Toxic should have the timing for it and at least the knowledge that Cooler won't be crossing over for it. So this will be, you know, a trade essentially, which is actually kind of dangerous for Toxic because Cooler can just stack back up, not only on the Mega now, but the armor as well.
You can see him shifting over. I believe he's right next to the rocket room right now. And yeah, standing on the other side of that one, trying to see if Toxic was going to push him, but not the case. So he does give it over. Toxic's able to split the timers up now too, so they're basically perfectly split up about 15 seconds apart from each other. So that's going to leave an opportunity for either one of these players to attempt to pick both of them up. Toxic needs that to go in a direct engagement against Cooler, considering the health pool advantage. But Cooler, he's hunting down his prey right now. That's exactly where he is. Toxic's still looking, though.
His position as the troll under this bridge, he hasn't really moved from here very much in the match. He popped out for that one Mega and he came right back into what's comfortable, and Toxic hasn't really figured that out, hasn't really spotted him. There's the armor grab. Are we going to see a rail from either of these guys? They go for the rails, but no real connections just yet.
There was another shot from Toxic there as he tries to fade back away. I believe he's going to try to go for the Mega Health pickup. Should be able to get that contest free as Cooler, unfortunately, can't chase it down so quickly. But what Cooler can do is he can jump into this fight and finally start the engagement. Gets his opponent up into the air, but too slow to react. Just not there with the rail in time, so Toxic's going to get away. Oh, there's a great rail, though. And now it puts Toxic down into a bit of a dangerous spot. He's at around 100 HP right now, but with no armor sitting behind that.
Cooler still being very careful here. He wants to listen, wants to see where Toxic goes, and maybe punish him at the heavy armor. Now he's going to be cranking it up a little bit. He knows he has the stack advantage for the moment. There's the rocket jump onto the armor. There's the spit. He's got close range. That's so dangerous for Toxic. Can he find a way out of here? The LG is going to be incredibly powerful as well, and he's done just enough damage to Cooler to make the chase not worth it. They're going to be breaking away, but Toxic certainly has a lot of work to do now to restack.
Cooler might have been able to actually press that fight too, because earlier on in the round, Toxic actually did use his the trail to try and get out of a bad situation previously. I'm not sure if Cooler knew that that was down or not though, considering that he was pretty far away when it was used. But oh, Cooler actually is going to get tripped up by another rail shot there. Thankfully, he's got that good stack going, so he's able to negate most of that damage, but still, it does take away all the excess health and armor that he'd built up.
And that's absolutely what Toxic needs right now. He needs to line up a lot of these rails out of the heavily committed fight, because as we've seen, Cooler, once he gets close range, that spit is just trouble. You don't want to get anywhere near that, so he needs to make as many of these engagements long range as possible and make these rails go. And actually, let's see, once again, Cooler getting a little bit turned around. Didn't know exactly where Toxic was going to come from. He responds with a 40 damage rocket. There's the trail, and here's the push from Toxic. Is he able to get out of here? Things go poorly for him. He's going to decide not to commit too much. There's a rocket jump from Cooler coming back into Mega, and this is actually going to be really dangerous because this Mega is going to be very difficult for Toxic to grab and commit to. There's the grab, there's the LG, and actually he ends up coming out on top of that engagement. A lot of shaft coming out of Toxic.
Very aggressive from Cooler there to try to go in and chase that kill down, and unfortunately hit the rockets out again. Was not ready to fight that with the rail. Now he's going to get tagged. He's in a bad spot now here in the pillar rooms. Goes over to LG. Remember the timer too. There's only 10 seconds left in regulation now, so next kill is essentially going to win this one.
And this is trouble for Cooler. I mean, he's lost his mecha stack, he's lost his armor stack, and once you take Sorlike down, you know, they're just a slow dinosaur. You don't have as much of that stack to worry about. So this is a window of opportunity for Toxic to kind of push the advantage. A window that won't be lasting long, however, as Cooler's able to take away Mega. Here's the crossover from Toxic. He's looking for the rail. It's going to be actually maybe even a trap. Look at that slide around, keeping his LG beaded on Cooler the entire time for consistent damage. Amazing play there. Even now going for the spam rockets across the room. He's got not a lot of stack to play with here, but he knows he's actually got Cooler moving and reacting to Toxic as opposed to the other way around.
Yeah, great damage done by Toxic, but unfortunately Cooler again, and that Sorlight can just heal it right back up so quickly. So Cooler still in an okay position, even though his health has been brought down by a decent amount. Toxic looking for him again and move around the map very quickly, but that trail, beautifully done. Now he's got Cooler on the ropes, he's got him down very low, and Cooler is going to have to go back to recover some of this.
Yeah, once you hear that rocket jump, I mean, it's a great response to throw that trail down and deny that chase. I mean, you could tell it's exactly what Cooler wanted, but he ended up getting punished for it. And once again, he's going to have to spend a bit more time getting some 25s, maybe even going for a Mega. It's still going to be a little bit before that comes back up, and Cooler's still down in the pillars. If he crosses through to this teleporter, it could be trouble for him. Toxic right now has a choice between either the chase or the safe play on the armor, but fortunately, he's fast enough. Maybe he can have both.
Toxic going so quickly. Oh, he missed that jump though, so he's going to lose a lot of his speed here. Unfortunately, I was about to say, he's moving so quickly around the map here. He can just leap right in the Cooler before he even hears it coming, but not so much the case anymore. Definitely knows where Cooler's at though. He's got a pretty good idea of where he's playing, but I'm pretty sure he spotted him a couple seconds ago. Knows he's hiding down below here in the pillar room somewhere. Spotted him there. Ooh, somehow misses that rail shot though. He's actually low on ammo count for that rail, so he's got to be a little bit careful about the way he proceeds in this fight. 3 shots left. He'll go down below, pop the trail again, and oh, surrounds him with it too. He's got him in the arena now, but oh, Cooler reversed it at the last second, but they both kill each other. However, Cooler got the kill first, so I believe he wins the round.
He does by a millisecond. I mean, that was such a nasty fight. Once Toxic committed to that Mega, you know, with like 5 seconds before it came up, he realized, oh wait, I'm too early. This is a bad place to be. I need to bail. Cooler committed to the fight. Of course, the trail would have done it. I don't think it actually did any damage. So if Cooler was maybe like a centimeter to the right, things would have gone differently, but that is just how close these guys are.
No, like I said, all it did was really keep Cooler in the fight, essentially. And I mean, for him, I guess it was a good thing he did stay in that fight, as he was just barely able. He shot the rocket a millisecond or two before Toxic did, and that was enough to be able to get that frag. And because we were in sudden death, the first frag will win. Cooler got it, so he wins that round.
Absolutely. So as we go into the next one, like you said on Sarnath, I mean, we might see things change here as they figure out, okay, that strategy for 6 minutes resulted in me dying. Of course, this time they both killed each other, so I'm not sure how informative that was for either of them, but I'm sure the tensions are high now, so Toxic, he's already got a rail, he's already got the play here, and actually looking for Sorlight to run into him, but of course that's always inviting danger, and you see how dangerous Cooler is there.
And Toxic choosing to back out of that fight instead of press the advantage. He had his opponent locked down in a pretty good spot, actually, but that spit scared him off. He had the trail going a little bit there into Cooler as well, so because of that, he pays the price, tried to back away, but that fight was already way too engaged for a fallback there, and Toxic, unfortunately, will lose that slash nice and early in the round. Cooler probably going to be feeling a little bit better now that he doesn't have to chase down that kill so aggressively anymore.
Well, I mean, this has just turned into a game of Quake Dinosaur Hunter for Toxic. I mean, he's got a Nyx, he's got a Anarchy, but as I think it was Machiavelli was talking about, that Sorlight really counts for both of those champions. Just the health pool helps out so much. You just have to do so much work as these latter champions in order to take down Cooler. And now that Cooler is 1 frag up, he might be wasting as much time as possible. We've already seen that they can go silent against each other and get into a situation where they just don't know where each other are. And Cooler can evade. But here's the LG. He's able to evade the spit a little bit, but there's a whiffed rail from Cooler. So he took a little bit more damage in that fight. As you can see, Toxic is still a lower stack, but that's always going to be the case in this matchup.
I like the hesitation there from Cooler. Was actually able to dodge quite a bit of his rocket damage, but he's still low. He's still in the ropes. Only 40 HP to play with here. Toxic's low too, of course, in the Nyx, but that much smaller hitbox is going to be a lot harder for Cooler to try and knock it out from range. So Toxic will fall back. He'll disengage for the time being. That'll give Cooler the time he needs to recover some of this HP, but he's still a long time away from being able to get any of the major power-ups. He just lost the Mega. That's why Toxic fell back, so we could go over and pick that up, get himself a little bit of an extra boost for this next fight. And Cooler is trying to set a trap right now, assuming that Toxic would come back and try to fight him again.
They're both going silent, and they were just a hair's breadth away from each other and didn't even realize it. That's how quiet they're going. Cooler's a little spot under the bridge still hasn't really been found out by Toxic, so he might be able to use that a few more times here before this round runs out. But he's got back up to 150, 100. He's got his back turned to Toxic right now. He doesn't own it. We've seen this before, how Toxic is able to get around Cooler and at least get that opening rail, but after that, the fight is just that much harder. Once again, Toxic right below Cooler, and neither of them have a clue.
Cooler looking for it here. Toxic, I would have assumed Toxic, and he would have been able to see him there, but apparently not. He falls back into the side room, I think, where the small armor is. So he wasn't able to catch him there, and now it's Cooler that sees his opponent, doesn't choose to take the fight. Changes up that position again. Remember, Cooler can delay this since he has the health advantage, but now the teleporter pop back in. Toxic very much comes out of the losing end of that fight, though, so he has to pop the stealth and run away.
And the biggest thing that's going to cost him right now is time. He has to get some 25s. He has to wait until he has that Ghost Walk able. I mean, if he had been caught there without a Ghost Walk in the corner, there would have been no way out. He would have been pushed up against that corner hard. But now he's going to have to wait, you know, another 12 seconds before that Ghost Walk comes back up. And there's a nice little bit of rocket damage to keep Cooler off his back. A little bit of damage like that goes a long way, but it also goes a long way towards running this into the 5-minute limit. Toxic has to make some damage happen.
Yeah, Cooler still sitting in the corner again, both trying to set traps for each other. He's got to be a little bit careful as they're right next to each other. The emergency stealth pop, but look at how low Cooler is. Only 50 HP to play off of right now. And Toxic, he fell back. He was able to get that armor pickup as well. And he's going to swing over here to try and stop Cooler from getting the Mega. He just assumes he's in this room. He's actually wrong about that. Cooler didn't even want to take that risk.
His favorite little hiding spot has been found out, and that was almost disastrous for him. And look at this, Cooler goes right back into it. Toxic thinking surely he wouldn't go there again, but they're actually down at the lower tier, just barely missing each other once again. He's got 50 seconds to commit, but you can see how frantic Toxic is right now. He says, I've done a ton of damage. I know my opponent's up against the ropes, but I still just cannot find him to commit to the fight. But here he is with the aggressive Ghost Walk, looking for that rocket, looking for the LG. He's got him on the pillars. The stairs are giving Cooler just a little bit of a positional advantage to avoid those rockets. And now Toxic, he can barely take more than a single rail, but even still, he's still pushing up against Cooler, looking for that damage. There's the LG, and he's completely floated. What is this, Quake Champions or Quake World? Beautiful frag there, and now Toxic is definitely in trouble.
Locks him down. Toxic had that fight for most of it as well. He had Cooler into the corner. He had him on the ropes there. Toxic even remembering the small time is going to go back, but oh, nicely done. On the spit there, getting so much damage done. That's just going to completely melt Toxic's HP. And one more rocket will do the trick. They'll ragdoll over to that other platform there, and that'll give round 2 to Cooler.
Fantastic match. I'm actually speechless. This is, you can see both of these guys are taking a quick breath before going into into the next map here, or next round rather. But this is getting really tense for Toxic, equally tense for Cooler. We're gonna have to see if Cooler is trusting of that hiding spot anymore, or any spot for that matter. There have been so many times where they both go silent, but they both lose information, which means that a lot of these fights end up being a little bit more unpredictable for both of them, and I'm sure that's nerve-wracking.
Cooler going to start this off. He gets himself the rail and armor spawn. His opponent was already able to route over there and pick it back up, but Cooler, despite the fact he has the rail, he's going to take a great initiation on the LG. His opponent trying to strike back a little bit. The emergency pop of the stealth from Toxic as he moves away from this fight.
And it's always something as a Nyx where you wait as long as you think is safe to pop that Ghost Walk. You want to get a little bit more damage, get a little bit more time to play the map before you have to use that ability. But Tox was definitely playing with fire there. So far, he's come out of it on top of both pillars, and Mega getting a grab for the rail as well. He's kind of edging it at this point, not wanting to commit, but there's Sorlag around the corner. That pop saved his life. If he had not pushed F as he was being popped up by the rocket, that was a beautifully placed one from Cooler. Any other game, that would have been a frag, but that Nyx is keeping him alive.
That's it up from Toxic to get out of there. Now the leap across, they're going to be forced into a fight against each other. Cooler tries to go for the spit, but his opponent's escaped. Another rail shot escaping from Toxic, but he's still so much lower in this fight. It's an easy dive from Cooler to go in there and be able to pick up the first kill of the round again with the LG.
And this is where things could change a little bit. I mean, going for the Nyx initially, I mean, I'm sure he was hoping that Cooler would go for that initial storyline, but as we've seen, that is definitely his favorite. So you go, all right, Nyx is not going to be able to do any miracles for me in the late game. Maybe I can just do some free damage at the beginning, and then maybe rely more on Anarchy and Slash here to get the real damage done.
Yeah, I don't think Cooler's ever going to be switching away from that initial Sorlag one. He's, both the matches we've seen played so far, I don't think there's been a single time that he started off the round on another champion.
And I can't blame him either. I mean, he's just done such fantastic work with it. But here comes Slash. It's a ton of LG damage, but the damage from the rocket is just enough to put Toxic on alert here, just barely. Oh, even the last tick of that acid is going to be enough to take down that Slash. Anarchy, it's all on him.
So Toxic, looked like he was going to stay alive for a second there, actually, but that last stick, I guess it came in a little bit late or something like that, as Toxic does end up going down to it. Lost 10 damage, knocks him out of the round. And the spit from Cooler, which was off the mark a little bit, but Toxic made the mistake of taking that fight a bit too close. He did jump in the puddle before jumping out of it, so he had to eat the dot and ended up dying as a result of it.
And now we are in a situation where this is the last life for Toxic here on Blood Covenant, which would force us into a tie-breaking map. but I'm sure Toxic wants to prove himself here. If he can take another, frag or two off on Cooler, that'd be great. But again, the clock is against him, the stack is against him. The fact that he's playing against Anarchy, he has to play this very hit-and-run style. He's gonna be able to take away heavy armor here, looking for Cooler at Railgun, but as he comes up the stairs to bridge, he doesn't know he's to his right. He might get sniped here, and they might actually clash down at the armor. No, they are actually, once again, gonna be missing each other completely just by a couple pixels.
Toxic, I think, was going way too fast there as well for Cooler to be able to really get a shot off onto him. He had maybe that split second when he jumped across the platforms there, as Cooler had already jumped down before he even went into that room. So now Toxic, he is looking around for Cooler, trying to figure out where he went, but Cooler's gone all quiet. He's gonna have a great chance right here as he just walked up those steps. However, Toxic, again, jumping across these platforms is a little bit dangerous. Finally, Cooler gives himself away there with the rail shot, but it misses his connection. And after that one, Cooler, he's immediately gonna disengage. He knows he's going to be a little bit careful to take this fight since Toxic still has control over that health.
You do bring up a fantastic point. The fact that Toxic can use Anarchy to cross the map also means he's going to be very loud as he's Marty McFlying around, which allows Cooler to kind of, duck around a corner. All right, just avoid this sightline, avoid that sightline, and soon enough, Toxic has covered the entire map and is then wondering if Cooler's even still connected to the game. It's exactly what Cooler wants. He wants to burn this time. He's got just over a minute to just hold on to the Sorlike. I mean, he's got such respect for Toxic's aim and ability to do damage. He doesn't even want to get into an engagement.
Toxic, again, is going to be hurt, I believe, by Cooler leaping down there, so he's looking for him inside the mid-blood pit. Can't find him out immediately. Toxic, again, now controlling both the power-ups now, mainly because of that speed, and also because Cooler has been playing so passively on this light. He sees him, though, hiding out in the lower teleport room, and oh, beautiful read on the rocket, too. Cooler's health right now is actually getting melted pretty heavily, but he hides in that corner. Somehow manages to circumnavigate and get himself behind Toxic there, returning at least a little bit of that damage, but it's still in an okay position for Toxic right now.
Actually, a little bit surprised that Cooler threw out the shot. I mean, Toxic just had no idea, but there he is, finding him at the 25 once again. The spin is going to once again be a huge problem for Toxic, as now he has to just search for a couple 25s to get back into the fight, but the damage is done. 30 seconds for sure, and we've got just a little bit of time for Toxic to find the last damage, but if he can't, we will indeed be seeing a tie-breaking map.
Remember, he needs to get 2 kills as well here, so this is actually going to be pretty rough for Toxic. I think he knows at this point that he might not be able to complete those kills. He's hunting around the map desperately. This is also why he's been so aggressive on this champion, because he knows he needed to trade out these 2 kills, and he's been unsuccessful doing that. He'll dive back in. Great damage done, but he goes down anyway to the spit, so it doesn't even matter. It's all Cooler in map number 2 as he takes quick control. So the players are loading in now, guys, and as soon as they get in and they've completed the warm-up, we will be starting out with the 3rd and final map of this series. Winner moves on into the round of 8.
And once again, Cooler, this is a new experience for him here at QuakeCon 2017. He has yet to lose a round, he has yet to lose a map until this matchup. But here we go, we've got Scalebearer and Sorlag right out of the gate here. Toxic making the grab, not for Rocket Launcher, but for LG and Mega. There's Nails and MG coming out of him here just to create a little bit of space, create a little bit of distance, and be able to get himself a rocket launcher. But he was in the area. He actually had an opportunity. He must have thought that Cooler was still on the rocket side of the map. He's now expecting him on this doorway, but doesn't really know where Cooler is. Look how sneaky he is here, and he comes flying out of there with the nail gun. The damage is dealt, but this LG from Toxic, Cooler's thrown a lot of trash talk against Toxic's LG on land before, but Toxic is ready to show him that, yeah, it's a new year, it's a new game, it's a new Toxic.
Toxic's got to be a little bit careful, though. He just tried to chase his opponent over towards the armor in hopes of stealing it from him, but that charge was nowhere near quick enough to be able to do that. Now he's low, 8 HP, and he gets taken down by Cooler. Way too aggressive there from Toxic, trying to chase that fight over to the armor.
42 health, it's a close one, but we do have Cooler taking that first frag, and here comes Nyx from Toxic now. And again, we're going to be seeing a bit of a familiar matchup where Toxic's going to be looking for those opportunities, not with the railgun this much, this map, but maybe with Nail, maybe with MG. But at that point, he's going to have to commit with the rocket launcher and the ghost walk.
Cooler now trying to play quietly too, as he has to figure out where Toxic is. It's going to be a little bit sneaky if they're not careful. Ooh. They're just playing ring around the rosy with each other right now. But I think Cooler might be able to spot the Nyx outside. No, I think he missed it, so he doesn't know where he's at just yet.
This is the stuff that makes me think of Red Annihilation. It's what makes me think of that E1M2 match with Thresh, where both players just go completely silent and just barely seeing each other by a few pixels. But there's Mega taken away by Cooler once again. Toxic, not so great on the stack. We've got Cooler kind of in the back end here. He won't be much of a threat to Toxic at this point, at least, as we have armor taken away by Toxic. But of course, when you're playing somebody like Nyx, the advantage of that armor goes away so fast. So you just have to acknowledge, hey, at least I've taken an armor away from that stacked up Sorlag. But They're sort of like waiting once again. It could turn into a trap. It could turn into an explosive fight. You don't really want to cross this room very much in order to force that fight, but Cooler goes in for the armor and comes back into it. Yeah, that's immediately going to be a useful ghost walk for Toxic, but he still sticks around. He's still in the red room with LG, allowing Cooler to circumnavigate the map, take away armor, and maybe even push him out from the other side.
So Cooler's got the tank stack built up again. He's going to dive back in. That stealth is nowhere near ready to go, so Toxic makes a fatal mistake trying to continue that fight while Cooler has both, excess health and excess armor from both of the power-up pickups. Toxic again going to lose his next champion here, and Cooler, he's set up now. He's got a 3v1 to win here.
I haven't seen the hard data on it, but that red room is such a death trap. I would be willing to bet that if you look like at a heat map for these frags, most of them would happen there. But even recovering to there, Toxic decides he doesn't want to go, but that doesn't leave him any options as Cooler's able to take that first round very cleanly.
It's the last 4 rounds, including a 3-round streak on the last map now that Cooler's been able to win. So he's been doing some good work here, and he's coming back now in very much a dominant form that we saw yesterday against Rafa.
I like the fact that he's opening with Scale Bearer. That gives him a big chance against this Sorlike, but he has to buy himself a little bit of time. He has to make sure that the weapons are good to go. He cannot overcommit to any of these fights, but against Cooler, it's very difficult to extract sometimes. I mean, even immediately coming out of the gate, a little bit of machine damage goes a long way. And coming into the red room, this could be a trap from Cooler. He's only got an LG, but he thinks, all right, that's enough to kind of put the pressure on Toxic here.
Cooler chooses not to take that fight, though, as he's going to fall back over here to the Boneyard and over towards the rocket spawn. Picking that back up now. He's got himself stacked. Remember, guys, again, as I mentioned a couple times here, there is no rail on this map. It's only Rockton and LG as the main weapons you're going to fight with here. And LG are both these guys' fortes. So you can see Toxic brought down to the bitter end again, but the Greats, he's able to get good damage through it. 80 more going on to Toxic, and that pretty much negates that full armor pickup that he was just able to get. You can see him creeping back in, basically trying to hide in plain sight, essentially, right in front of Cooler, and it works. Keeps him alive for now. Gives him this nice run of 25, but oh no, Cooler sees what's happening now. He's going to try to turn this around. Toxic still in a bad spot, and Rocket jumps up in order to get that first kill.
And he actually is going right back into Nyx here. This is going to give Cooler the ability to stack back up on both Mega and Armor. He's got plenty of time to control both, but actually Toxic is saying, no, not going to let you have it for free. I'm going to dive right in at the last second and deny that. He's still not really ready on the weapons to bring this fight. He just got an LG here, but at least he's going to be able to deny the armor stack from Cooler. Cooler waiting at the doorway. Toxic has figured him out once again, throwing off a little bit of damage, just enough to let him know that he's there. But here he's kind of creeping on the bridge here. He's looking for the play down to Armor. Cooler kind of creeping out in the hallway himself, and really good timing on the rocket there. He's looking for more, but even the spit from down below is going to be effective against that Nyx, and Toxic has to run away.
Yeah, Cooler just patiently waiting now for the armor spawn, gets that going again. It's all Cooler right now here, even in the second round. He's got great amount of control over the map. Toxic pushing, getting a little bit of damage done there with the rocket, knocking him down basically just to his normal stack. That's still a big stack you have to worry about, though. Toxic did manage to steal away the mega health there, so he has that going for him, too. And actually, these little bits of pressure are doing decent damage to Cooler. It's slowly reducing him again. Look at it right there. He's down to about half HP. He's getting pushed down, too, so there you go. Toxic gets the trade, brings it back over to a 2v2.
It was a crucial moment to push. I mean, like you said, he's done a lot of attrition damage. That Mega was about to come up, and all that work was about to go down the drain if Toxic didn't make something happen. And as you can see, it takes so much work to even take down that Sorlike once. But there it is. That'll even up one frag against one. And there's the force on the Ghost Walk, but no such luck for Cooler, as he's not able to evade the LG. Very nice work out of Toxic, and he's starting to turn this around.
Well, this was all Cooler before, but not so anymore. Even at the start of this round, Cooler had great control, but Toxic, a little poke kill that he was able to get against his Sorlike took him down, and the Nyx didn't really seem to pose a threat at all against Toxic's own Nyx. So he's now got a 2v1 going up against the last spawn here for Cooler. He's over on the Galena trying to stay alive, but that Galena is now going to slow Toxic down like quite a bit, but maybe not so. He's going to dive right into the fight. Toxic wins it out with the LG. That's going to give him control over round 2.
Coming through that doorway, always so dangerous, and that'll tie it back up 1-1. I mean, against a Galena, you really want to have enough time playing a slow game where you can set up those totems, both for the information, the health, and the damage. It really is a full package. But if your Galena is your last champion, sometimes you just don't get the time to set that up.
And folks, this best of 5 on this map is the last best of 5 these guys are going to play out here. Loser of this one goes home now. It is not a double elimination bracket, just single elim here. There's no room for redemption.
Absolutely. So as we get rolling here, once again, we have actually Nyx starting out here with Toxic, kind of keeping that Scale Bearer in the pocket for the moment. That means that the nail and LG damage from across the room is going to have to be really consistent. But as you've seen, we've seen Toxic actually start to put that together. Really good rocket to get Toxic off Cooler's back. They're going to be gliding here. This is bad news for, well, somebody, but there's the Ghost Walk to at least evade the fight and get armor for Tox. He's going to be running back out of there. Cooler knowing that he cannot escape anymore. except physically, up the hallway. He's able to get out of there with 37 health left intact. Still 18 seconds before the Mega comes back up, and Toxic can only get a natural stack, and still plenty for Cooler to leverage against him.
Yeah, Toxic just has his base stack going right now. He's got the double bull pickup sitting inside of the Boneyard there. He'll put himself back into a good spot, but now he's kind of trapped in the corner here. This is the problem for him. Thankfully, he's not in red room at the very least, so he's got a little bit more room to maneuver, but Cooler as well is also very low, right around 50 HP currently, so he's got to fall back. He's going to be able to get that armor pickup, and he too is looking for a couple 25 pickups if he can be able to get those.
This is bad news for Cooler. Not being able to get that Mega sets such a strong precedent. I mean, he's going to have to go farming for 25s, and that really only leaves you a few places to go in this map, places where Toxic can easily set up a trap. And coming through the hallway now, it's actually going to be kind of dangerous as he crosses into mid. Yep, Toxic spotted him, throwing down a little bit of spam. Mega's coming back up in 3 seconds. Cooler kind of has to make a push for it. He's got the health and armor to make it happen. Toxic, it's going to be a little bit chancier for him. They've both got abilities at the ready, and there's the Mega sitting there, ready for somebody to commit. There's Cooler pushing in, and he actually kind of came out on top of that. He lost the armor, got the health that comes down to the heavy armor, and that is actually going to be going over to Toxic. So they're going to be kind of keeping an even keel in terms of stack control. But it's going to come down to the Rockets and LG here.
They pretty much just trade power-ups at the end of the day, so Cooler's going to be left with not a whole lot of armor, which is going to be dangerous for this upcoming fight now, especially on the LG. As Cooler's going to try to continue it, but Toxic sitting right behind him here. He's going to want to push him. He pushes him right over to the armor. There's still another 10 seconds until that armor spawns, so Cooler, he's going to bail the heck out of here. Trying to recover some of his health in the Boneyard.
Such a mind game. I mean, Toxic is picking these fights right when he knows that he can commit to the grab for the items, and keeping those items out of Cooler's hands is just the biggest deal. And even with the armor taken away, oh, I barely missed air rocket, but there's the Rockets and LG really good coming out of Cooler. There's the spit to keep him alive and force Toxic to have to leave the fight. But at the end of that, they're going to be pretty much even on terms of the stack. I mean, there's the 225s taken down on the Boneyard from Cooler, and with 6 seconds left to the Mega, Toxic has a very difficult decision to make right now. Well, that Rocket might have just made the decision for him. He's going to be trying to get out of here, Ghost walking out of there, giving the Mega back over to Cooler, and keeping this fight intact. But out of the red room, once again, it's so difficult to move through there. If you want to get up the stairs, you're going to be there for a while.
You're so right about that red room and how many kills we've seen happening in there. Just in this match alone, we've seen at least like 3 or 4 of the kills that have happened inside of that room. It's such a trap to go inside of there, especially when they're low, so we have to see players retreating to it, but so often they find themselves dying. Look at this fight, though. They both just take each other on. Toxic thinks he can take the fight on the freshly spawned Scale Bearer, but it's not the case. Cooler, again, wins it out. He is a little bit low now, but Toxic's going to want to be careful.
I mean, you could see that that's exactly what Toxic's playbook was. It was, all right, I'm probably going to die as Nyx, but I'm going to do some damage to Cooler. He's going to be hurt, and then I can come back in as, ooh, as a Scale Bearer. But here's the attempt on the Dire Orb. There's the spit from Cooler once again. At 85 health, he's nearly rocketable, but Toxic is just barely going to be alive with that Ranger afterwards. He's going to try to go for the 25, but nope, no 25 for you, no health, no round.
Beautifully timed there as well. Even dodged that last Dire Orb to get out of the way of that one. That was actually a dangerous Dire Orb because, you know, previously to him jumping into the room, Cooler was just sitting right on top of that. So at the last second, he jumps out of the way and prevents himself from getting telefragged.
I mean, if it is true that Tox is using this Nyx just to set up an easier frag, well, we're going to have to see how that plays out. I mean, Cooler's already feeling the pressure, but he's able to rocket jump across the map. Cooler was not expecting that fight, but neither was Toxic. Both of them kind of walking away from it, or limping away from it, rather. But there's the LG coming out of Tox, and he knows that Cooler doesn't have it. That's an advantage he can press, and he uses it effectively, getting that first frag.
Remember, Cooler is 1 round away from eliminating his opponent here, but Toxic starting off with the advantage is great for him. He's finally knocked that Sorlag out of the running. He's got a little bit of an advantage to play off of here.
And this is one of the first moments we've seen in this matchup where actually Cooler has to be on the offensive. We haven't seen that happen too often, but Toxic is just going to be enjoying his small amount of control here so far. So be able to take away Mega. Takes a little bit of a rocket splash from Cooler for his trouble, but with that armor traded off, they're both going to be fairly low on the stacks here. It's going to come down to who commits to the Ghost Walk first, but here's a great play on the jump pad. There's the Ghost Walk taken away by Cooler, allowing Toxic that moment of advantage if that next fight happens.
Flawless push timing from Toxic there, too, to be able to catch him just as he's going up on top of that jump pad. He does recover the health pretty quickly, but now there's a fight over the full armor. It goes through the portal there, but his opponent's going to chase him, too, and it's right after he got the armor pickup. Now he's taking the fight to him. His opponent knows it, but it doesn't matter. With that advantage on the armor pickup, it's Toxic again that wins the next 1v1, bringing Cooler down to just his Galena now.
In those Nyx v Nyx fights, I mean, if you can get that Ghost Walk forward, it's great, and there's Galena, and there's just no chance to even get a rocket launcher shut down. So this is it. The final map, the final round. One of these guys will be moving forward in the playoffs. One of these guys, well, it's going to be sitting in the front row drinking.
Man, Cooler couldn't even get that totem heal there right at the end. He tried to throw it down and go into it really quickly, but Toxic, nicely done, just denies all of that. So we go into it, as you said, just like map number 1, all the way to round 5. Map number 2 was a lot more dominant for Cooler, but he seems to have lost that now going into map 3, and it's an even fight again to decide who gets to move forward into the quarterfinals.
We have some attrition damage coming out of the heavy machine gun, and as that sword that comes through the doorway, there's going to be even more. The LG's is not going to be in range. This is really good free damage coming out of Toxic. Cooler, he still has a huge stack advantage here, but the statement has been made for sure. Getting rocket damage is not going to be easy there, but 40 damage, not bad from Toxic at all. As Cooler is now recovering to the 225s up top. There's the play for the Mega. It's not going to be free, but it's mostly going to be advantageous for Cooler.
And Toxic specifically now jumping around the backside. He's trying to look to get some extra damage on the Cooler if he can, read into his pathing, and you can see the rocket prediction coming out from them. Just didn't end up working so well, so they're going to duel each other at range again with the machine guns.
And when it's machine gun v machine gun, I mean, Toxic just has to know he cannot stay there as long as Cooler can, obviously. But they're both going quiet. This is, again, so dangerous for either of them. Toxic has very little health. He has the Ghost Walk on standby, but his reflexes will need to be on point in order to evade a death there. They actually spot each other at armor. Is it worth engaging? Not so much from either of them, but now that Cooler's got a full stack, he definitely wants to put some pressure on Toxic and force him to use that ability.
Well, Cooler falling around the corner now, trying to go over towards Red Room here. Tries to predict the rocket, but nicely done. Toxic stops his own pathing, dodges out of the way of that one, and avoids taking quite a bit of it. You have to like what Toxic is doing here. Again, just trying to sneak off damage bit by bit. Hasn't done a massive amount just yet, but now he's going to dive into combat here through the portal. Got a great initiation, but he does not have enough health to continue fighting here. Throws a spin onto the ground, prevents Toxic from reappearing right next to him here and trying to finish him off. But now, hold on, running him into the corner here. Toxic, it's still dangerous to continue this fight. He's got Cooler very low, but he doesn't have him low enough just yet.
Oh man, that was so risky for either of them, and it was just barely getting out of that LG range that kept them alive here. So now Cooler's gonna have to spend a little bit more time getting these 25s, the one that he denied from Toxic before. Tox was able to go back and get that Mega, which is actually kind of bad news for Cooler. He really does need that. I mean, getting the heavy armor is nice, but it's really that health that ends up keeping you in it. Toxic has his Ghost Rock on the ready once again. He's gonna be leaving up the armor. Do we have any spam coming from the teleporter? Not so much. Toxic's keeping quiet. He doesn't want to give away his position just yet.
Cooler now be routing himself over here around the ramp leading up into Rocket Room. Trying to stay quiet, but he did jump around a little bit, so Toxic may have a general idea of where he's at. I think it was more towards the middle when he went up this ramp, so should have been able to hear him. You can tell he's looking for him now as both players go quiet again, both of them sitting inside of the red rooms on the other side of the map here.
Yeah, Cooler's method of hunting by way of staying still is so effective. He just didn't drop in those past few fights. He stayed up on the bridge, knowing that at some point Tox was going to want to go through the teleporter for the armor, and he was able to kind of set the precedent for that fight. But now he's also able to take away a Mega, and now he's got nothing to get except damage on Tox.
Yeah, it's Cooler can go very loud here now. He's got the double stack built up. Problem is he's trying to fight these rockets, keeps completely whiffing them, so pretty much waste the stack that he just had built up a couple seconds ago, and now Toxic's been able to even it back out a little bit here.
Yeah, you blink and it, by way of that heavy machine gun, that stack is just gone. I mean, he's still got a lot to work with, but he certainly doesn't have the advantage he had. He's looking for Tox down here in the red room. He's going to take an armor for his trouble. Mega's going to be taken away by Toxic here pretty soon. He's going to have to realize that that drop will indeed be safe, as Cooler's going to be back over here by armor, but that might even be a trapped out armor. There's a little bit of LG. The damage is good. Not exactly as much as Toxic wanted, I'm sure, but he's going to have Cooler reacting to his movement a little bit and might be able to force him into the next fight.
Yeah, Cooler falling back now, trying to hide himself inside of the red room since he still has the armor advantage to go back in, and there's the dive. Going into the fight, only does about 30 or so damage to his opponent, though. He's going to try to continue that down the ramp again. However, can't chase that, as that would pretty much just be a trap that Toxic could set him up for. Remember how deep we're getting into the round here, too. We're just crossing the 4-minute mark. This could very well come down to whoever gets the first kill would win this round and this series.
This overtime potentially does not favor Tox, but especially getting caught from behind by Cooler. He has to pop that Ghost Walk. This is going to be a very dangerous 40 seconds for him now. He has a little bit of that Mega advantage, but it's not going to get him very far. He has to evade this fight. But once again, if he goes into overtime here, there's the LG coming out of Sorlag. He is on the run. Cooler's on the chase. He's trying to stay close range. Toxic doing just a little bit of damage, trying to do enough to make Cooler get off his back, but it's not working just at the moment. Mega's going to be a quick pit stop for Cooler, traded off with armor here. But if we go into overtime, that means that this Nyx will not have that Scale Bearer in the pocket to do the last little bit of damage off the spawn. It'll all be on Tox's Nyx.
Yeah, Toxic, I think, wants to try and end this fight now before it gets to the 5-minute mark and win it up via the timer. Just great damage right there. This melts the HP from Kohler, bringing him down to pretty much no armor to work on either. Definitely not his full HP. Wants to finish it off, but he went right into a rocket. He's low now, 26 HP. The next kill will win this, and it's Kohler that stakes it off at range with the MG. And with that, it is going to be Kohler that wins it. 3-2 on the final map and takes the series 2-1.
The last bullet, the last possible moment as Tox was disappearing around that corner, getting out of the fight from the heavy armor room. But there's the switch, there's the commitment, there's the execution. Cooler will be moving forward.
And he feels good about that one there. That was coming down to the wire. So close for both of those players. Even in that last fight, too, the Knicks had a good engagement to start things off, but right at the very end of it, he spun it back around. The Knicks ate so many rockets that it brought the health pool down. She had to try and run away. Didn't work out, so Cooler shuts it down with a long-range MG shot.